Hello, it's Samantha here. Myself and Rachel are going to talk you through this presentation, which is all about interviews.
Hi, it's Rachel here. As Samantha said, this presentation is all about interviews, and here you'll find details of different interview formats, some activities to prepare answers to typical interview questions, and tips on making a good impression at your interview. If your application for a job or apprenticeship has been successful, you're likely to be invited to attend an interview. Interviews can also be carried out for college or university courses, so if you're planning on undertaking some further study before moving into employment, you may still find this section useful. An interview is a chance for an employer or college or university staff to ask you questions and learn more about the skills and qualifications you outlined in your CV or application, and they'll also use the interview to assess your suitability for the job or course you've applied for. Interviews also give you a chance to learn more about the job or course you've applied for, ask questions, and hear more about the business and people you'll be working with. Everybody gets nervous before an interview, so it's a good idea to take the time to prepare in advance so you feel more in control of the situation. Some of the areas to prepare in advance include finding out what type of interview you'll be taking part in, preparing answers to interview questions, thinking of some questions to ask the panel yourself, and making sure you know where and when your interview is so you're not late. This presentation and the resources in this section will help prepare you to do that. If you've been successful in securing an interview, the first thing to be aware of is what the format of the interview will be. You'll usually be told this beforehand, but if not, just ask. On this slide, you can see some of the types of interview you may encounter. So first of all, the panel interview. Your interview is conducted by more than one person, typically between 2 to 5 individuals. Panel interviews are used by employers for several reasons, the main one being that it allows members of staff from different areas of the business to ask you questions and then collectively discuss your suitability for the role. One-to-one interviews are the most common type of interview. The interview is conducted by one person and usually consists of the interviewer asking you questions about the information you've given on your job application or CV. Usually, interviewees are given the opportunity to ask questions at the end of the interview. In a competency-based interview, the interviewer will ask you questions that are designed to find out how you have used specific skills in previous work or personal situations and how you approach problems, tasks and challenges. Competency-based interviews are becoming increasingly common and are used by employers such as NHS Orkney and Orkney Islands Council. To find out how to shine at a competency-based interview, it's useful to learn the STAR technique. You'll find more details about this later in the presentation. So, interviews carried out over telephone or Skype or Microsoft Teams have become more common due to the coronavirus outbreak. This could be either a one-to-one or panel interview. If it's a video call, you'll need to look presentable, so don't wear your pyjamas. Again, prepare answers to likely interview questions, have your CV or application form to look at, and give plenty of detail in your answers. It can also be an idea to pin up some prompts to answers you've prepared around your computer screen for you to use. If you're invited to a group interview, you'll be interviewed with other candidates. A group interview will often begin with the interviewers giving a short presentation about the company. After that, they may speak to each candidate individually and ask them a few questions. One of the most important things to know about this type of interview is that the interviewers are constantly observing you during group tasks and judging how you interact with candidates. They'll want to know things like, are you a good team player? Are you a natural leader? And how well do you communicate with others? Psychometric testing is sometimes used in the recruitment of apprentices. It's used by employers to identify suitable candidates for a job and to evaluate the candidate's performance. There are two main tests, and they are the aptitude test. This can include numeracy skills, a verbal test, literacy skills, reasoning tests and more, and behavioural tests. There are several different tests depending on the job you're applying for, including personality questionnaires, motivation tests, and leadership tests.
The best way to make a good impression is to prepare well. This means doing your research, having good examples, and practicing your answers. Also, have a read through the job description or the person specification if you have these, and your CV or application form. You can use these to help you form relevant answers. It is important you know what your skills are, so make sure you complete the Identifying Your Skills activity, which you will find in the additional information of the Finding and Getting a Job section of this programme. Let's have a look at some general interview questions and how you could answer. Question 1. Obviously, the interviewer knows the answer to this question, but they are testing your knowledge. Remember, it's not a memory test. Take a notepad and write down some facts about the company beforehand. When asked this question, you can simply recite what you've gleaned about the company, and you'll impress the interviewer at the same time with your organisational skills. Question 2. Firstly, you need to set the scene, describe yourself, and finish with your interest in the position. For example, I recently left school and I've been actively trying to find a job. I'm creative and motivated and I enjoy working with my hands. I like to play football and help my dad fix cars. I've applied for this job because being an apprentice mechanic will allow me to build on my practical skills while doing something I enjoy. Question 3. This is where your transferable skills and strengths come in. The information on your CV should hold the majority of information needed to answer this question. Remember, review the job description if you can, as this will also tell you what they're looking for. If you're applying for an apprenticeship or an entry-level position, then generally it's not expected that you will have any prior hands-on experience, although some would be a bonus. What they're looking for here are the transferable skills, such as being logical, being able to think on your feet, be responsible and reliable, being good with numbers, a good communicator, or good at working under pressure. Remember, a good interviewer will ask you to give examples. So if you say you're reliable, then you might be asked to give an example of this, to which you could answer that you're never late for school and you rarely miss a day. This may sound basic, but it's extremely important that employers know these sorts of strengths. Question 4. Your answer to this question can also show what kind of personal qualities and interests and as well as skills that you have. For example, you could talk about cooking. This would show that you're organised and can follow instructions. Travel. This would show you're adventurous and flexible. Team sports would show that you're a team player and have good communication skills. Music would show that you're creative. And remember, if the job requires certain skills, you should try to demonstrate these if possible in your examples, trying to keep it relevant.
As we mentioned earlier, the STAR technique is a useful tool to help you prepare answers for an interview, in particular a competency-based interview. STAR is a useful acronym that can help you shape your answers, and it includes the 4 areas you should aim to cover in your response. STAR stands for Situation, Task, Actions and Results. On this slide you'll find prompts to help you think about what to include in each area. So for example, if the question was, tell me about a time you used good customer service. Think of a situation, so that could be working in a local supermarket. So what was happening? For example, was a customer wanting a product or advice on what to buy? What did you have to do to solve the problem? That's the task. Was it straightforward or did you have to think on your feet? Explain, why did you decide to do what you did? What actions did you need to solve the problem for the customer? Was it different from what you've done in the past? Did you learn anything? Finally, what was the result? Did you achieve what you hoped? Did it make a difference to the customer, the employer, or to you? And what might you do differently next time? You can find some practice interview questions to practice the STAR technique on the DYW Orkney website or from your guidance teacher. So far, we've spoken about how you can prepare for the different interview formats you may encounter and given you some help to prepare answers to interview questions. But here are some points to consider for the day of the interview itself. First of all, arrive on time. First impressions are everything, so make sure you leave plenty of time to arrive for your interview, at least 10 to 15 minutes before it starts. It's a good idea to make sure you know where the interview is being held and how you're going to get there. You can time how long it takes to get there prior to the date of your interview. It could be a virtual or telephone interview, so the same rule applies. Make sure you're available at the time stated. Be aware of your body language throughout the interview. A good handshake and eye contact can go a long way. If it's a virtual interview, the same rule applies, so make sure you have your camera turned on. Speak clearly. Don't mumble or speak too quickly. You can bring notes or brief points about the company or questions you'd like to ask the interviewer. Take a copy of your CV, but don't refer to it while in your interview. Just use it to refresh your memory while you're waiting. Focus on your strengths. Be positive and believe that you are the best person for the role. Dress to impress. Look like you belong in the company you're being interviewed for. Be smart and clean. Finally, ask questions. Come prepared with some questions to ask, as it will show that you're genuinely interested in the role.
A lot of what you might need to know will be explained to you during your interview. However, usually at the end of the interview, you will be asked if you have any questions for the interviewer, or the interview panel. This is a good chance to show your interest in the company and your enthusiasm for the job, and it's where the preparation plays a key role. You should note down some questions to ask before your interview. Here are some questions that you could ask. And some that you should not ask. You will find all the details of these activities in the activity section, which you will see when you close the presentation. You can undertake these activities by yourself, but it might be a good idea to show your interview answers to your guidance teacher or careers advisor, and they can give you some feedback. It might also be useful for you to arrange a mock interview with your careers advisor. The more you can practice, the more comfortable and confident you will be in any interview that you get invited to. If you need any further help with preparing for an interview, please get in touch.